Welcome to the Fuzzy Mike, the interview series, the podcast, whatever Kevin wants to call it. It's Fuzzy Mike.
Hello, and thank you for joining me. I'm Kevin Klein, your host of the Fuzzy Mike, where we get entertaining and helpful conversations on mental health and self-improvement. The idea for this episode was given to me by a very good friend of mine, Melanie. Recently, one of Melanie's doggies, Eli, went over the Rainbow Bridge. And when I found out, I reached out to check on her and share my sympathy. She asked if I could do an episode on grief. I thought it was a great idea. So in this episode, we're going to answer the questions, is it better to have loved and lost than to never have had that love at all? And how do we grieve a loss? My guest today is Kelly Kirk. Kelly's a Maxwell Leadership Certified coach, teacher, trainer, and speaker, as well as a professional bodybuilder. His story and what he's overcome and how he did it is filled with tragedy and inspiration. May 15th, 2003, your post on Facebook said, about 5 years ago, I decided I had a story after all that I'd been through. The kids' murders. You had a niece and nephew murdered?
Yeah, so in 2009, 7, 8, somewhere around there, I had just opened up a gym. So it was kind of my two best friends that I grew up with. We decided we were going to open up our own business. We wanted to own a gym. And the three of us went into business together. That's a whole story. Never go into business with your best friends or family. But about maybe a year into it, so probably 2008, 2000, I guess 2009 at this point, my nephew and niece, my brother's kids, my brother and his wife were divorced. She had remarried a park ranger, police officer in the county that I'm in here in Prince William in Virginia. And, the kids, it was typical divorce. The kids would come see my brother, every Tuesday and Wednesday and Saturday and Sunday. They had them split, kind of went back and forth. Well, the husband came home one night and was upset with his wife. They got in an argument, which couples do. He went downstairs, got his service revolver, came back upstairs and shot her in the head 3 times. Okay. That's awful, but it happens 1,000 times, or more, a day around the country. That crazy stuff happens. What he did after that was where it really changed. This was about 10 o'clock at night. He walked down the hallway and walked into my niece's room. My nephew's room first, Connor, who was already asleep, and put his hand on his face and put the gun here and shot him in the face. Brittany, his sister, my niece, jumped up, ran to the door. He grabbed her by the face and shot her, kind of blew out the bottom of her face and neck. And then walked downstairs past his mom, who lived with him, told his mom to go lock herself in her bedroom. And he walked outside and called police dispatch. And again, he was a police officer, so he had back numbers and everything. Hey, where is Sergeant so-and-so? Is he working today? Yeah. I need you to patch me through him. And for lack of a better word, there was a lot of shady stuff that went on right there. It went between him being a police officer, member of the county, to a murder. How is the county, how are the police going to handle this? Like, you're friends with the chief of police, the captain, whoever it was, and you could hear in the phone calls just the crazy stuff that went on. So Brittany ended up living about 4 hours. She passed away about 2 o'clock that night. They medevaced her out. Seeing her after all of that, my brother and I went into the operating room. They asked if they wanted to see her, and we did. And I'd had a pretty easy life up until that point. I think pretty much everything I'd ever wanted in life, I got. If I wanted a job, I went and had it. I wanted a girlfriend. I wanted a car. You name it. I mean, everything went great. I was senior class president in high school, captain of the wrestling team, captain of the baseball. Life was pretty easy. And that was pretty much my first kick in the gut, for lack of a better word. And just seeing her, and what she had been through, seeing the 17 surgeons at Fairfax Hospital with tears in their eyes, and walking into the operating room after she passed, burns an image in your brain you just never forget.
Yeah, I'll give you massive amounts of credit there because I don't know if I could have taken it upon myself to walk into that emergency room and seen my niece like that.
Yeah. And I don't know that I could have alone, but my brother wanted to. So, whatever. My brother's 4 years older than me, and he was my hero growing up. So whatever he wanted, that's what I would have done. I would have backed him up 100% no matter what. And it was difficult. I remember Brittany's head from all the fluid and everything they were pumping in blood. Her head, it didn't look human. It was just swollen. The whole body was swollen and massive, and her beautiful blue eyes were still open, and you could still, she was 13, she had perfume on, and she had a cute little necklace, and still had that stuff on, so you could tell that it was her. And but it was rough, and probably the one of the harder things that I still deal with to this day is my brother passed away that day. I lost my brother died that day, not physically,
Right.
but everything inside of him. We're 15 years later, and he's still on disability and still hasn't been able to, come to grips with everything. And my brother was a fantastic businessman. He was vice president of a large repository company, flew around the world, worked with the Korean Army, I mean, all kinds of different stuff. And this just, really, really took it away from him. So
So
it was very hard after that to watch, somebody that I worshiped growing up, you have to go through something that most people luckily never experience.
So what's a stronger emotion in him? Is it the grief of the loss of his two children, or is it the anger towards the murderer?
Probably the grief. To be honest with you, in the beginning, they drugged my brother up so much, the doctors did, that he honestly never faced the grief or the anger in the beginning. He was very numb for the first few years. And, 3 or 4 years into it, they had him, and I don't know what the meds were, but, all kinds of different antipsychotics and stuff to help sleep and stuff to level you out. And, there's one medicine, you have to take another one. It was just crazy. And he wasn't himself. He couldn't work. He really couldn't function. And he finally got to the point where he said, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not who I am. I want to come off of all this crap and get my life back. How do I do it? And I remember the doctors telling him, and him telling us about it, well, you're going to have to face everything all over again because you never really went through it. So, I'd say 5, 6 years after it happened, my brother came off of all of this and really had to go through it, the loss almost for a first time. So I think it's just the grief, and the change in his life. That his kids were his life.
Sure.
Married or divorced. So nobody should lose their kids before them.
And as you said, your brother, who's a little older than you, is your hero. What are you doing for him at this time? I mean, how can you be there for somebody who's in that deep of distress?
At that point, it was difficult. I mean, my entire family was. 6 months after my nephew and niece passed away, my mom, who had been relatively healthy, she had been through some strokes and medical issues, but was doing good. She passed away in her sleep, and we kind of felt like that was mom going to take care of her grandkids, like she needed to be there. 30 days after that, my dad, who had always been healthy, worked until he was almost 80, started having memory issues. He would come upstairs and say, hey, I'm gonna go upstairs and make me a cup of coffee. Yeah, like small things he couldn't remember. Took him to the doctor. Doctor said, it's probably just grief and stress from the kids and you losing your wife and all, but let's run some tests. They ran a test, and he has a stage 4 tumor in his brain.
Oh my gosh.
And said, he might have 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. They didn't know. Had a friend that I went to elementary school with who owns a cancer center out in this area. We went out and saw him, and they were just phenomenal. I would never forget one of the best conversations. So to give you an idea kind of who my family is and kind of how we dealt with stuff, I'll never forget, they're sitting there and they're telling my dad that, the radiologist and the oncologist and all are talking to him. My sister and my brother and I are all sitting there, and we're holding back tears. We know what this means. This is bad. they're telling my dad, well, we're going to go through chemo, we're going to go through radiation. Mr. Kirk, they said, you are what we like to call in the medical industry a tough son of a bitch. So we are going to throw it all at you. You're 80 years old, but we're going to give it to you like you're 30. And if you can't handle it, we're back it off. But I feel like that's the kind of person. My dad was like, absolutely, absolutely. And they went through the whole thing and they said, Mr. Kirk, do you have any questions? And of course, my brother and sister and I, there's a million questions. Can he live? Can he make it through this? Is he going to be sick? I mean, all this stuff. Not my dad. My dad says, I just really have one question. And the doctor says, sure, what is it? And he goes, am I going to lose my hair? The doctor looked at him and walks over and pats him on the back and goes, no, Superman, you're going to be okay. What we do, your hair is not going to fall out. My dad was like, okay, yeah, this is good. Let's do this. So it was one of those times that I will absolutely never forget. And it just kind of tells you that's how my family has faced, everything as we've gone through it. And I certainly learned a lot from my mom and dad and brother, but that was one of those things that my brother and sister and I still laugh about. All my dad was worried about is, am I going to look good? I know I'm going through this crap, but don't make me lose my hair,
Sure.
So the support for my brother, losing his kids was all over the place because within 18 months, we lost Brittany and Connor, we lost my mom, and we lost my dad. So dad ended up making it about a year. Did fantastic, ended up beating the cancer, but, through going through chemo and radiation and everything else, he ended up with some complications with thrush in his throat and some other infections. And, it's bad at that point. You beat the cancer and something else gets you.
Yeah,
really.
we do. My wife and I do a lot of work with pediatric cancer patients, and
Okay.
it's basically, the chemotherapy attacks every organ,
Right.
whether it's healthy or unhealthy. And
Yep.
yeah, that's what we're trying to fund is better treatments and better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
targeted.
Yeah. And so it was, the whole family was grieving over the kids. We were grieving over mom. We were grieving over dad. And everybody was, of course, worried about my brother, still is to this day. As soon as I'm done here, I'm actually going up to meet him to go work on cars and mess with stuff. That my dad was a mechanic, so we grew up piddling with cars and race cars and doing stuff. And my brother and I almost every weekend still get together and work on cars and do stuff. But there's never a right way or a wrong way to support somebody going through any of this. And, I know that firsthand, but nobody really knew how do you support my brother. I mean, there was support that came in from all over the world. This was an international story. I had friends in India that were, sending me messages. I heard what happened. I mean, it was just a huge story. A police officer murders his wife and then two kids, and all that happened. It was just, I don't know, to support him was just literally being there for whatever he was. There was a lot of times where I would say for probably the first 6, 7, 8 years, we didn't see my brother. He wouldn't come out of the basement basically for Christmas, for holidays, for birthdays or anything. He didn't want to be around it. And I remember thinking, well, that can't be the best way. I understand differently now, but at that point, I looked at that and thought, is that really the right way? Well, there is no right or wrong way. Now it's very different. Now my brother's at every family event we have, and runs around with all my great nephews and nieces. My nephew and nieces, my brother's nephew, both of our nephew and nieces, their kids are anywhere between 1 and 13 now. So my brother's in the middle of all that and loves that. I mean, he was a fantastic dad. So it's good to see him, part of all that. But there's, like I said, I lost my brother that day, as well as my nephew and niece. And fast forward a few years after that all happened, and I'm running the gym. My partners and I had a business falling out. I ended up walking away from the gym, went to corporate, said, I want this business back. I don't like the way it's being run. They said, hang in. If you want it, you'll get it back. They're going to lose it. Long story short, they did, and I came back in. Business was struggling, and I came in, and I remember sending out a text message to my entire family. I said, the gym is mine. I'm back. I said, I need some help. All hands on deck for me to make this gym survive. I need as much help as I can from anybody, anywhere, whatever you guys can, whether it's working at the front desk or helping me with books or whatever. 7 o'clock the next morning, my brother came walking into the gym, and he never left until the doors closed, 3, 4 years later. And he was, just absolutely a huge part of it. The people at the gym loved him. My brother knew business backwards and forwards, knows business backwards and forwards, helped with books and loans and money and just the customer service aspect. And, he and I being able to be there and be together and laugh and joke around and just be part of it. And again, everybody at the gym knew his story. I mean, you want to talk about a community that rallied together. That was really my first impact on, or my first eye-opening experience with the impact that the gym community, kind of has. So it was, there was no specific, I guess he supported us as much as we did him,
Yeah.
And then, fast forward how many years later when I'm going through it myself, nobody was there more for me, than my brother. And the instance that happened, he knew kind of what to say. And even now, I'll go hang out with him this afternoon. And there was a long period of time where my brother wouldn't talk about Brittany and Connor. He just, that's not
block
what
it
he
out.
wanted to talk about. Yeah. And now I talk about them all the time, and my deal with Sofia, I know we'll get to that, but I want to talk about, I'll have every conversation she comes up. And there's a lot of people that are uncomfortable with that. They're, did he just mention her? People will say in the gym, hey, have you ever eaten over at that, Korean barbecue? Oh man, that's Sophia and I's favorite. We love that place. And I'll kind of see people go, Sophia, like, is it okay? Did he mention him? You're not going to cry? Like, what? I might cry. I don't know, but I'm still going to talk about her. My brother wasn't necessarily like that in the beginning, he is now. So now it's great. We can have conversations about the kids and funny things they did. And so, and the same thing with Sophia. So it's, I've watched him come through a lot and really grow through it over the last, I guess, almost, it'll be 15 years this February.
What happened to the murderer?
He got 6 consecutive life sentences.
Oh, good.
So he'll never see the light of day. He's in lockdown 23 and a half hours in solitary because he's a cop and a kid killer. So they can't put him in general population or he'll be murdered in, 5 minutes. So yeah, he's at a facility down in Southern Virginia somewhere, and he'll never see the light of day. And, in the beginning, I remember thinking, we all wanted the death penalty. Oh, and I don't care what your political or religious views are. When something happens to you close, that changes everything. And they decided to pull that. They didn't think they were going to be able to convict him, which dude murdered 3 people. How are you not going to, get this? But they got it. And like I said, he has 6 consecutive life sentences. So he'll never, ever, ever see anything. He gets 30 minutes out of his cell. Now, in retrospect, I'm glad that's what he got, because you think about that, a little 6x8 concrete room, and you see nobody all day long. I go crazy when I'm home Saturday and Sunday by myself. I start talking to the plants and stuffed animals and Lord knows what. I can't imagine something like that. So
well, and I've talked to a couple of death row experts, and they say that it's actually the worst thing that you can pursue as a victim or victim's family, because there's going to be decades of appeals, and you're going to have to relive that episode over every time.
Yeah. So we're happy with the outcome, in retrospect, but that was really the beginning of a tumultuous, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years of stuff. Hopefully all that crap's done. It's probably not. I like to think that, but sometimes God has different plans. But that was really the first just kind of tragedy that sort of set everything off. And when I had put that post on about talking about, I had a lot of people, you should write a story, you should write a book, you should talk about what's going on and how you guys dealt with this. And I just didn't really know what, who, why, what am I going to put together, that kind of thing. So it wasn't really until I went through some more stuff and got to where I am now where that made sense.
Well, you went through some more stuff. You ended up getting the gym, but I think you lost the gym.
Yeah. It was just too far gone. It had a bad reputation. We had a bad lease. There were issues in the building. We ended up moving down the street and changing. Now, the corporate, the people that own Powerhouse gyms overall, the family is just amazing. The Davishes, they've been in the gym industry since 1968 or 69 with Joe Gold, who owns all the Gold Gym. Like they are the original, guy. Amazing family, completely supportive. Um, and it was a struggle. It was a struggle for me to pay bills. It was a struggle for me to do anything. I'll never forget finally talking to Will Dabish one day. I'm like, Will, I don't know what to do. I'm a wreck. I don't sleep. I can't pay anybody, just over and over. And he was like, Kel, walk away. It's not worth it. This is not worth your health. This is not worth anything. He's like, good people lose businesses. It is what it is. If you want another one, we'll get you another one at some point. He's like, don't do this to yourself. Walk away. And that was kind of the first time that I think anybody had told me, hey, it's okay if you fail, you're gonna fail and figure something else out. So yeah, I lost the gym. Before I lost the gym is when I had met Sofia. So I work for the IFBB and the NPC around here, which is the two organizations that run
Professional
all the
bodybuilding.
bodybuilding shows. Yeah. And I work at the Olympia. Work at the Mr. Olympia the last couple of years. So I'm backstage expediting and helping set people up and stuff like that. All from relationships from back in the 90s. So, I tell everybody now, I teach high school. So I tell the kids now, do not burn bridges. You have no idea where somebody is going to come into your life 2 decades from now. So the man who is kind of in charge and my direct boss in the IFBB NPC, he and I trained at the same gym back in the early to mid 90s. And we kind of crossed paths. He's like, hey, do you want to work a show? I own the gym. We started putting stuff together and the gym supported it. And then all of a sudden, here I am. I do, 13 to 17 shows a year plus the Olympia. So, it's not a huge paying job, but it's what I love to do.
Well, and you're around your people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was working we own Powerhouse, and Sofia had seen one of the shows. She was a cellist. She played cello, and she was at the school, had come back to help the band director or something, and she was in there and talking to the band director, and she had been working out herself, not at Powerhouse. And I just saw her band director or orchestra director 2 weeks ago, and she was telling me a story. She said, I'll never forget. She said, Sofia's over there, and she's telling all the students about her working out. And she's like, yeah, I've got abs now. You wouldn't believe this. Like, look at this. I've got abs. She's pulling her shirt up and showing them. And Miss Woods, her orchestra instructor, comes over and she's like, Sofia, what are you doing? Oh, I started working out, Miss Woods. You wouldn't believe this. I know it's been, 5-6 years. She goes, punch me in the stomach. Sofia, I'm not punching you in this. No, it's okay. Go ahead. And she said all the students were like, yeah, go ahead. It's okay. No, I'm not punching you in the stomach. But that was kind of who Sofia was. She couldn't wait, So she walked into Powerhouse one day and I wasn't there. Had a guy at the front desk, calls me. He goes, hey, had a girl come through here, wanted to sign up. And I said, oh, okay, did you get her a membership? Nope, she only wanted to talk to you. Okay, well, I'll be back. So a couple hours later, I get there and she comes walking in, and this cute little ball of fire comes walking in. Hi, I want to see about getting a membership. And I said, oh, okay. So I'm taking her around the gym, and I'm trying to be the professional, but also act cool. Here's this cute girl, and I'm like, do you work out? Do you know anything about the gym? Oh, I'm trying, but I don't know much. So of course I'm like, well, here's the leg press, and this is how this works, your quads, and if you put your feet this way, and then you're going to curl, and we have this. And she's like, oh, wow, she knew every damn thing I was talking to her about. She was working me 100 times harder than I was working her. She had seen me at one of the bodybuilding shows, found out that I owned the gym, wanted to meet me. So she came over and decided to join the gym. So her and I don't know, within probably 2 weeks, went out on our first date, went to DC and wandered around, saw the monuments, and, just hit it off. There was a huge age gap. We both had issues with that. We were both worried about what's everybody going to say? What do we do? How is this going to work? And my family and our friends, especially, were like, who cares? Is she good to you? Yeah, I've never had anybody be so good to me. You love her? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think so. It's brand new. Who cares? And I'm like, okay. And in our little bodybuilding world, nobody cared. In our gym world, nobody cared. We had the same interests, you know. Um,
Well,
she doesn't
same interest except for music.
absolutely. That's what I was gonna say is she, you know, I would make a movie reference from the 80s and she would go, huh? Who? Or she would play something and I'm like, who the hell is Bad Bunny? I don't what that's music? What? I know Bugs Bunny, you know, it was a hot mess, but none of that mattered, you know. It's so funny. One of her favorite movies was Smokey and the Bandit. Yeah, that's what, 1977,
Yeah.
76, something. And she loved that. So I would call her Frog. That was what he, you know, he would call her. So, and she had gotten me into some of her new stuff, but we just fit, you know, we ended up, kind of what got me to through everything is we had been dating about 6 months. I lost the gym and
You were
I
living in
couldn't
your
keep it together.
car.
Yeah, so I lost the gym, and everybody in the area was furious with me. Not everybody, but a good portion. Oh, he must you took millions and ran away. And believe me, if I had millions, this place would still be open. You know, I'm not embezzling money and hauling ass somewhere. Um, and I have a smart car, so not like it was a big station wagon. So I had a smart car, and I lived in it. At a rest stop, and I would move rest stops every night. I would change, and the police would come up, knock on the window. You okay? Yeah, I'm good. And I was working odd jobs off of Craigslist, and I lied to everyone, to my family, my friends, my family say, "Hey, where are you staying? Are you okay? What are you doing?" "Yeah, I'm good. I'm staying with a friend." My friends, "Hey, where are you staying?" I'm okay. I'm staying with my family." I lied to everybody. The only person that knew, you know, was Sofia, really. And I fully expected her to be like, "Peace out. This dude lost his business. What a loser, living in his car." And she was the other way around. She was just supported me. You can do this. You know, what do you want to do? Let's find a way out of this. She helped whenever she could. Um, I couldn't stay with her. She was renting a room, you know, from a family. So it wasn't like it was an option for me to go, you know, even mooch off of her or something. So we just made it work as best we could. And a couple months into me living in my car, a friend of mine from Gold's Gym Corporate, which I had worked at in the early 2000s, he owns a gym not far from here. And he and I were talking, and he said, you know, do you guys need a membership? And I said, yeah, Sophia and I, you know, my girlfriend and I, we would love a membership. I said, I can't afford one anywhere. We haven't really been able to train. And she wants to compete and all. And he says, well, I'll tell you what. He says, I will give you both a membership on one condition. And I said, sure. What's that? He said, you show up every day and you use it. I'm not going to give it to you if it's not going to be used. But if you're going to use it, I'll give it to you. And I said, let's do it. So he gave it to us. I remember going to Walmart. I had $43 to my name, and I bought $43. Somewhere I have a picture of the food. It was literally tuna, peanut butter and jelly, bread, a bag, 5-pound bag of rice, like whatever I could get to kind of hit my bodybuilding macros, you know, and kind of get my head into this. Sophia and I walked into the gym the next morning at 4:30, and we started training together every day before she would go to work, and we'd meet up again afterwards. 6 months down the road, my physical started getting better. I was 225 pounds, fat, blood pressure high, just everything was a mess. 6 months later, my physical started getting better, and realized as my physical got better, so did my mental.
Hmm.
And life just kind of felt like it was turning around. I was still a mess, still depressed over the gym, you know, still didn't really have a job or know what I was going to do, but I was kind of putting one foot in front of the other and moving forward. Um, Took a job substituting at high school here. My mom was a teacher and a substitute. And I thought, well, here's, you know, 95 bucks a day. At least I can work and I can still go interview for other stuff if I need to. I had worked, as I said, all kinds of odd jobs off of Craigslist and stuff like that. And I started subbing and I found out I love that job. And I had another person contact from Powerhouse who owned 13 Subway restaurants around here. And he had offered for me to come in and be like a regional general manager, have 13. And I said, yeah, I could do that. I said, but I promised I had a long-term sub gig. I was covering for a teacher that they had let go. I said, I promised the school and these kids I was going to stay here until the end of June. I can't start until then. You know, can I work part-time? And he goes, yeah, let's teach you how to be, you know, working in a Subway. You can learn like one of the kids. So I would work until 2:15 at the high school, drive down to the local Subway and go in there and put an apron on and work with these high school kids being a sandwich artist. I am the worst tuna sandwich maker, oh my God, ever. I'm like, this is definitely not my skill. But now, when I go in there now and those people are, putting the stuff on the bread and folding it over, there's a skill to that, and I didn't have it.
So let me ask you about this work
Yeah.
ethic, okay? So you're teaching and then you go become a sandwich artist. Was that, I mean, that's a massive work ethic. So was that a proponent or a component of bodybuilding, or did bodybuilding give you that work ethic?
My dad gave me that work ethic.
Okay.
I'm literally coming off right now. A week ago, for the previous 8 weeks before this, my days have started at 4:15 in the morning and ended at about 10:30 or 11 at night, walking in the door. So my dad just, I never saw him be sick. I never saw him take a day off. You just work. That's what you did. He was that generation, that World War II generation. There was, it was a different breed, and that's what I grew up seeing. So I think that probably helped when I got to bodybuilding, and I am actually better with everything else in my life when I am actively competing or prepping for a show, because you have to be so organized and so prepped, and everything has to be structured. I'm 9 weeks out from Team U to Team Universe in New Jersey, which is a pro qualifier in July, and I have every minute of my day pretty much mapped out. Sundays are kind of my one day that I get to take a little breath, but the other 6 days, I know where I am 24/7. So it forces you at that level to be more organized and have a different type of work ethic.
The discipline that you have to have for that sport is just, it's ungodly.
Yeah. And,
And Sofia probably helped you stay disciplined.
Nobody worked harder than Sofia. I've been around top pro bodybuilders my entire life, adult life, and nobody worked harder than her. She just, Sofia and I love to eat, but we are both foodies and we love to eat. And she's 4'11", 113 pounds. So she's tiny, but she could out eat me and everybody else. And love to sleep, love to lay around and rest. But when prep started at 4:15 and that alarm went off, those little feet hit the floor. And I'm laying in bed going, oh, babe, 15 more minutes. No, let's go, let's go, let's go. We got to do cardio. Let's go. Like, there was nothing. She never missed a beat, not on workouts, not on diet. There is no cheating. It wasn't an option with her. I've never, people would say, oh, she's obsessed. I'm like, obsessed? No. Dedicated? Yes. Or what's her motive? What's your motivation? It's not motivation. It's dedication. Motivation will only take you so far. That'll get you through a Rocky song, and a picture will get you through a workout or, a couple sets. It's dedication, having to get up and go do stuff when you don't want to do it. And
how do you learn that? How do you build that?
I don't know. I don't know if you do. I don't know if you build it or if you instill it. I think it's probably in all of us. I think so many of us have just had the opportunity to not have to face that, or not been through stuff. I draw from her on that every single day now. Really, at this point, still, we're coming up on 3 years since her passing. If I had my choice, I wouldn't get out of bed any day. I'm perfectly happy to lay in bed and look at pictures and be upset and bawl my eyes out and just be a wreck. And I can't, because she would have my ass if I did that, and that's not who she was, and that's not who she wanted me to be. And that was kind of where the teaching thing came about. They offered me a job at the school I was substituting, and I said, heck yeah, teaching nutrition, which was right up my alley. I went and got all my certifications and did everything I needed to do, and I started teaching. And I have never in my life had somebody be so proud of me as Sofia was when I got that teaching job. And for me, I was like, it's a teaching job. This is the worst paying job I've had since I was 18. Who that teach? I've always been in sales. I worked for the Redskins. I've sold into the operating room. I sold cell phones when they first came out with Sprint and Nextel. That's all I've done is sales and my own stuff. So for me to have a job where you show up and go to the same place every day and get the same paycheck, completely different. But I got in there and found out that I loved it. Loved these kids. Just love being able to I don't know, teach them. And it's something that I'm passionate about. And then Sophia and I started our own nutrition company. We are haters. And everybody was kind of doing keto. That was the big thing. And we're like, low carb. That's awful. Everybody's done low carb that bodybuilds. That's horrible. Baby, let's try this keto thing for like 2 weeks so we can do some posts and tell people how horrible it is. We started doing it 2 weeks into it. It was miserable. We felt terrible, looked terrible, awful. And we were both ready to quit. And I was on an online forum and met a guy who was a scientist at National Institutes of Health. And he started talking to me. He said, I don't know anything about bodybuilding, but he said, we use this in the medical community all the time. We use the keto diet for kids with epilepsy and a bunch of different, medical treatments. Would you be interested if I could show you how to do this diet at a 20% caloric deficit and preserve 90 to 95% of your muscle versus a standard diet where you only preserve 60 to 65%? I said, that's the holy grail of bodybuilding. Hell yeah. What do I do it? And he didn't know bodybuilding and I didn't know the medical, and we kind of meshed it together and figured it out. And Sophia and I launched a company, and that's been 7 years ago, I guess now. So I teach people how to do healthy keto, not the crap you see on TikTok of go eat 3 pounds of bacon and although bacon's good, but it's how do you do this? How do you do it and stay healthy? So we launched that company. I started teaching. She was competing. Life was just, heading in the right direction. She wanted to, get her pro card. She had taken first at 2 national shows. And we just loved it. It was one of those where I remember having a conversation with her that, babe, everybody always says, oh, stuff happens for a reason. And, oh, God only gives you what you can handle. And he's doing this, so you're going to deal with that. And stuff that I had never believed. And at that point, and I said, you know what? Maybe this is why I went through losing the gym and losing Brittany and Connor and my mom and dad, and then you walking in, and like, because now we're finally at that place where things are moving forward and it's coming together, and it's all because of everything I've been through. I think a lot of that, I would never have been where I was even then had I not been through some of the bad stuff. It's ironic now for me to look back and say that, but at that point, having that conversation with her, I just remember it being, very powerful. And even though there was this huge age difference between the two of us, like I said, nobody cared. It didn't matter to us, and it didn't matter to anybody that cared about us. It's
Well,
just in this world, it was fine.
if they're true family and they're true friends, all they should care about is your happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And you found that happiness, and Sophia found that happiness in each other. And so who cares about age? It's just a number, man. It's just a number.
Yeah. Well, that thought went away, within the first, I don't know, 6-7 months. We were like, who cares? It is what it is. Her friends loved me. My friends loved her. And in the bodybuilding world, we just, we worked every weekend. We were working at a different show. We traveled, we went to different gyms, we ate and ate and ate and ate and ate, and just, had a blast. So, it's, I don't know. It's one of those things that I sit here now and go, how the heck was I lucky enough to find it? And how the heck was I unlucky enough to lose it in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's unlucky though, because you did find it. I mean, and so Sophia at the age of 27, which is 3 years ago, she passes away in her sleep, and it was unidentified causes.
It was a heart attack, but we don't know the reason behind it. They did an autopsy very quickly, which all they're worried about is was she murdered or did it die natural? That was all. I did some exploring on my own with some people that I knew that are high level, some very well-known pathologists, and they have some ideas. Maybe could have been something with her kidney or liver, bladder. She had some bladder infections that never got taken care of. For about a week before everything happened, before she passed, she had headaches and joint pains and stuff like that, but nothing that was a red flag to either of us that were like, oh my God, we better get to the hospital. What's going on? We're having joint pains. Okay, well, you're working out twice a day, and going 100 miles an hour. You have a headache. All right, well, we're stressed. Like, I mean, just, they weren't anything. It wasn't some huge red flag where you're like, oh my goodness, something has to happen. And her mom, this was, during COVID, or kind of towards the end, I guess, of COVID. Her mom had not seen her in almost a year. Her mom lives in Jacksonville, and called Sofia on Monday and said, "Hey, I'm coming to see you. I'll be up on Thursday. I'm going to be in town. Let's get a hotel and you can stay there and we can hang out and go to lunch." And she's like, "Should I take off work?" She's like, "No, go to work. I've got stuff during the day, but we'll hang out at night and go to dinner and all." So the last time I saw her was that Wednesday morning. Um, I guess it was Wednesday her mom came in. So Wednesday morning, we got up and went to the gym together, and that was it. We were going to see each other on Saturday to work a local bodybuilding show here. Um, and Friday night about 12:30, my phone rang, and it was her mom. And having had that phone call with mom and dad and Brittany and Connor, and never a good thing when your phone rings, in the middle of the night. It's just not. And I remember my heart sinking before I even answered the phone, and with no reason to have that thought. And the words from her mom will play in my ears, just like the vision of Brittany when I first saw her. I try, those are things that I try not to go back to, but I do. Um, I absolutely have PTSD from, everything that I've been through. There are triggers that will set stuff off. Sometimes it'll set me off to where I end up, bawling my eyes out, but more so, a lot of times it'll freeze me. Something will hit and that thought will just play in my head over and over again. And there's times where I'll find myself sitting at the kitchen table for 2 hours, not on my phone, not listening to music, just literally there. And I know that's a trauma response.
Well,
um
I gotta say that in talking to you right now and watching your speech at Lifts for Sophia,
mhm.
you're 1,000% changed. I mean, you're 1,000% better right now.
Yeah, I'm I know how to navigate through it.
Yeah.
um
How?
I just keep moving. I talk to her every single day. I don't know if we can, there she is sitting on my
Yeah.
other, she's there. um I talk to her. I tell her about my day. I do the same things that her and I always did. um
Well, and she talks to you too.
100%. There have been so many things that
I
have
can't wait.
happened.
I can't wait for you to share those stories. But
Yeah.
I want to talk about you becoming a teacher. And
Okay.
she worked in a pediatric dental office.
Yes.
She's not going to care about the paycheck you're bringing in.
Right.
Another similarity that you two
Yeah.
had was love for children.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
I
Well,
mean,
that's a love hate for children, because there were plenty of days where she would go, "Oh my God, I wanted to beat this little kid," and I'm like, "Yeah, because I wanted to beat one of mine." So we
yeah,
had both.
yeah, but you don't, and you love them,
Yeah.
and you come
Yeah.
back the next day. But, and the reason I say that it was, you had this in common, she was your swole mate. And I love that, man. Swole
Yeah.
mate. Cause when you're bodybuilding, you
Yep.
get swole.
Yep.
Who coined that?
Probably me at some point. I'm not sure, but yeah.
That was cool. I read that and I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
that's so brilliant. So brilliant.
we
So
just we just worked.
you just clicked.
It just worked. There was never a question about it. And we talked about whether I was lucky to have found her or unlucky to have lost her. Absolutely lucky to have found her. I've been through so many relationships in my 50, now 5 years, 54 years. um some of them I screwed up, and some of them they screwed up. And I'm still friends with most of my exes. I still talk to them randomly, and they understand, how it was with Sophia and I, and they know ones that I messed up and ones they messed up. But no relationship was like this one. It just wasn't, and I don't mean that as a dig towards anybody else I ever dated. This was just
It
the
was
one.
easy.
We just worked. It was easy. And that's what it was, is there was no jealousy. We both supported each other. So many things that I had gone through in other relationships that was difficult, I never dealt with here. um
Isn't it
And,
crazy how with age you can look back on things and say, "Oh yeah, that's where I messed up," or "That's where I
yeah,
could have been better." With
yeah,
age comes that experience and that wisdom. And then when you find easy, I've got
yeah.
the same thing. You know what it's supposed to feel like.
Yeah, and I now I'm 55, and I feel
Same
like
here,
I'm
brother.
much. See, and I feel like I'm much better in a relationship than I'm not in a relationship. But we're coming up on 3 years, and the idea of that, I can't even entertain it. And I don't. I know you never say never, but at this point, I think Sophia, that was it. I'm good. Am I lonely? Yeah, I'm lonely as hell most days. Do I wish there was somebody to share, stuff with? Yeah, I get old going to eat at our restaurants by ourselves and stuff like that. Are there people that I could go out with and stuff I could do? Absolutely. But I'd rather not, and I think if I was younger and maybe hadn't been through a lot of relationships, it would be different. Let me go see what's out there and let me see what I know what's out there and I know what I had. So I feel like for me to go on a date with somebody or to try and end up in another relationship would be unfair to that person because everything would be compared to Sophia, and that's not something anybody can live up to.
Yeah, it's
And I
not
know
fair to
every
them either.
relation, yeah, and every relationship is different, but it wouldn't be fair to them. I feel like it wouldn't be fair to Sophia, even though everybody says, oh, she wants you to be happy. No, I'm sure, but we also laughed and joked about she didn't want me to be with anybody else. I don't want her to be with it. Those it's I can laugh at that part now. Um, so I just I don't know if this is it and this is the rest of my life, whether it's 5 minutes a year or 50 more years, I'm okay with it. After having had that with her, I keep her alive through the foundation, through, like I said, I talk to her every single day. This necklace here,
I was going to ask you about the necklace because
just everything.
it's the symbol of 222 muscle, which is the foundation you started for the Sophia
Hmm.
Graham Foundation. We're going to talk about that because what you're doing with it is phenomenal, and it goes back to something you said earlier about the guy who gave you a gym membership.
Yep.
It's perfect. But her ashes, you've had them welded in
Yeah.
to that
So
necklace.
so we each had one of these bodybuilding necklaces with a barbell on it. Hers was the top one, mine was the bottom one. We each had it and wore it. There's a company, they actually donate money to the foundation every month. Good friends of mine, Brent's Bling, and they make these necklaces, and she and I each had one and wore it. And when everything happened, I actually had hers opened up and put her ashes inside of her dumbbell and closed it. And at our school, we have a welding program, and I took it to one of my friend that runs the welding program, and I had him weld it into this kind of cross or X. And I wear this religiously every day. And then this is what ended up turning into the logo for the foundation, a few months later.
Yeah, if you're
So
watching this on YouTube, I've got the logo right up on the screen right there.
nice.
And there's the link to the website. But for everybody who's listening on audio, what is the website?
So the website is the sophiagrahamfoundation.org, or you can also go to 222muscle.com. Either one of them will take you to the same website. Only mental health organization in the country, maybe in the world, that focuses on mental health through physical strength. There's not another one out there, and we're a full 501c3 nonprofit. So
You give memberships to gyms for people who are
yeah,
struggling with mental health issues.
yep. So our mission statement is to lift people who feel the weight of the world on their shoulders and provide improved mental health through the pursuit of physical strength. So the idea is anybody, if you talk to anybody that goes to the gym, has been through something. I talk at a lot of bodybuilding shows, and I'll speak to people and I'll say, hey, it'll be 200 people in the audience. Everybody in here is, why did you guys think about why you started working out? Some of us started working out because we wanted to lose weight. Doctor said you had high blood pressure. Most of us started working out, whether we want to admit it or not, because you wanted to look better naked in the beach, whatever it is. Like there's always that vain part of it. But I said a lot of us, you started working out because you went through a breakup. You were dealing with, coming out of drug addiction. Lost your job. There was all these different things that would happen. And when you start going to the gym, as I said, it happened with me. 6 months into it, your physical starts getting better, and so does your mental. So what we do is we provide gym memberships to anybody who is going through a trauma or tragedy in life, where this gym membership might save their life or turn their life around as it did mine. Um, so we've provided memberships all across the country. Most of the time, what's nice is the gym owners, the small gym owners, they will donate, a membership. They'll give it to me. If that's the case, then sometimes we'll help pay for training or we'll help pay for home equipment. With some of the students that I've had, I've bought BOSU bands and balls and dumbbells and stuff for them to be able to have at home. I say working out or gym membership. It doesn't have to be that. Maybe working out is getting your butt outside and going for a bike ride. There's so much science behind the endorphins that are released when you exercise and what it does to your brain and the dopamine and the serotonin and all that stuff, that it's not just a crazy thought. There's science behind it.
No, it's not a
But
crazy thought.
but when you've actually lived it, you can go. And when I ask this at the bodybuilding shows, usually about 70% of the people will raise their hand. Yeah, we've been through that. And I'm like, well, that's what we do, and to do it and have somebody by your side is, completely different. There's a card that I have that she gave to me a few years ago when she convinced me to start competing after 19 years. I hadn't competed, and I'm leaving, getting ready to go to nationals. And she gave me a card, and I want to have this card actually blown up and into, on a wall in her handwriting. But it just talks about how far you can go with somebody's support and how you're my person. And thank you so much for being there and everything you've ever done for me and blah, blah. Just, I've got so many things like that from her that are why it's easy to keep her alive and keep moving and keep going, moving forward. I don't know that it'll ever change. Like I said, I never say never, but right now I'm good with it's still her and I,
Yeah, no,
and
in many ways.
And I say that sometimes, and I'll tell my friends or my family, my sister, I'm like, I'm batshit crazy, and they're like, why? I'm like, because I walk around the house and talk to her all day long, but when I do it, and a light will flicker, or a song will come on, or 222 will pop up somewhere, I know I'm doing the right thing. So I was just in a production of The Wizard of Oz at school.
Nice.
Talk about biting off more than you can chew. So she loved me teaching. So one of the things I've really pushed for this year, I'm the senior class sponsor. I've sponsored these kids for all 4 years. So, I've helped go through everything from homecoming to prom to senior pranks to you name it. So I had asked the director probably about 8 weeks ago now. They were getting ready to start the Wizard of Oz production. And I said, hey, if there's a little 30-second piece where I could come out and do a little cameo and a dance and be a munchkin or something funny and make everybody laugh, I'd really, Mr. Kirk? And I said, yeah. She goes, okay, show up to rehearsal the next day. I showed up 9.5 minutes of me dancing and singing like a damn munchkin, way more than I. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And all I could hear was Sofia laughing and going, oh, baby. And Snuggles was like, Snuggles, you could do this. You've got to do this. This would be so much fun. And she just would have loved it. So I show up for the show the very first night, and the director had a front row seat with her name on it, said reserved for Sophia Graham, had a purple flower for her. I love the fact that everybody in my life, my students know her story. They have her on Instagram and, Facebook. Everybody just gets it. They know our story. They know that's where I am, and they support it. And it's just awesome. But what I was going to say with her was, so the very last night of the show, I get next to last night, last Saturday, I'm on my way to school to go to this next to final performance, and I'm talking to her. And we have a app called Marco Polo where you can leave video voicemails. And it's great. I use it for friends and family and clients. And she and I lived on it every day. She would go to the gym in the morning. I'd go to the other gym, and we'd message back and forth. And she'd send me videos of her at work all day and the kids and vice versa. So I still have several hundred of them saved. So I'm driving down and I'm scrolling through, and I clicked on one randomly, completely random. And it pops up and it's her. And she says, hey, baby. She said, I love working out with you in the morning. I had just gone to work out today. She said, I love working out with you in the morning, so I'm glad I got to see you today. But I'm really bummed I'm not going to get to see you tonight. Now, I have no idea where this message was from, but to me, I took that as my performance,
Sure.
That she's not going to get to. And I was like, man, so there's just so many powerful things that have happened, with that. The 222 came about because when I was homeless and had been living in my car. A friend of ours had offered for me to come stay with her. And I'm staying in her condo. Came home one day, long story short, the house flooded and they moved her into a hotel. She's like, well, it's a 2-bedroom hotel, so come stay in the hotel with me, until you figure stuff out. So I'm over there hanging out. Sophia is on her way over to hang out with us that night. She texts me. She says, baby, I'm on my way over to see you and Sherry. What room are you in? I said, we're in room 222. Come on up. She writes back and says, 222. Is that on the first floor? No, babe. 222 is on the second floor. 111 or 122 would be on the first floor, right? So that became this running joke. 222 is on the first floor. Everybody laughed about it. Fast forward 6 months later, she's getting ready for her first figure or physique show that I helped her with. Local show. Her number was 222. She wins the show, wins the overall. Fast forward again, a year later, we're at Junior Nationals or Junior USA is one of the big shows for her to get her pro card. 1,500 competitors. Her number comes up 222. Same thing, wins both of her classes. So 222 is just kind of always our number. And the amount of times that it comes up now, I'll be sound asleep in the middle of the night, and there's been 2 or 3 times where I've literally felt a tap on my shoulder or something move, and I'll roll over and I'll wake up and let me get up and go pee, and I'll look at the clock and it's 222.
Well, what was the story you shared at the Lips for Sophia? There was a 222 reference you made in that, and it was absolutely eerie. When I heard it, the hair on my arm stood up.
I was working a show. I was working one of the first bodybuilding shows without her. Jay Cutler Classic down in Richmond, and Jay Cutler was one of her idols. He's 6-time Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
Great guy, super, super, super guy. I'm down there. I work the early part of the show. I go back to the room. Normally, I get back to the room, and that's when her and I would talk smack about everybody. Did you see so-and-so? And what about such and such? That's what we all do. And I get back to the room, and I'm just a mess. I'm bawling my eyes out. I don't know how I'm going to make it through this, and I'm crying. And I'm texting back and forth with one of our friends who is also a dental hygienist, who also judges at shows, and I've known her and her husband for years. And I'm messaging back and forth with her. And earlier that day, I had put a post on Instagram or Facebook, something, and I said, this is going to be really hard without you. Let's try this or something. And I'm talking to this lady back and forth, Karen, and Karen's like, are you okay? And I said, no, I don't know if I can do this. I said, Karen, I'm done. I don't know. And she's like, you like done with bodybuilding? And I go, no, I think I'm done. I'm not being morbid, but I don't think I want to do this anymore. I'm like, I'm done. This is not what I signed up for. I want to go be with her. I'm done. And I literally, Karen was like, no, you'll be fine. We'll see you tomorrow morning. We love you. And I'm laying there on my bed in the hotel room, and I opened up Instagram and I clicked on it, and it came up with 222 views. And I was like, oh, okay, that, may have been. So there's a lot of things with her. It's usually more than one thing. I was coming home from 7-Eleven. There's a 7-Eleven right across the street. I'm walking back to the house. This was a few months ago. And as I'm walking back to the house, I'm having a conversation with her out loud again. I'm sure the neighbors are going, who's that crazy old guy, walking? And I was like, babe, I said, I sure do wish you were here. I said, I know you're here, but I said, I wish you were here and I could just find some way that I could give you a hug. And I stopped and I looked up at the sky and the street light, and I have this on video because might have been talking to one of my friends. I looked up and the street light went off. And I went, babe, was that you?
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. And the light flicked back on. And I was like, and I'm a skeptic. So so I think because I'm a skeptic, she generally throws 2 or 3 things at me. So I come walking into the house, and I walk in, and laying on my bed is the remote control for the TV, and the red light on it, power light, is flashing on and off. Haven't touched it. Nobody's been near it. Nothing is okay. And I walked over and I'm like, I'm sure this has got to be you, baby. And I worked over and I opened up Instagram, and the post from that day, 222 views. And I'm like, okay, 3 things like that in a span of 2.5 minutes. It's just not coincidence, And I tell people, I don't care what you believe. I don't care what your religion is, what you think, where there is more to this world and this life than what we see. and I don't know what it is necessarily or how it works, but there is absolutely more than what we see on a, on a regular basis. So the people that have gone through similar stuff, they always ask me for advice, and my only advice is talk to them. I promise you they hear. I didn't do that with my mom and dad. I didn't do that with Brittany and Connor, so I don't have a reference going further back because it wasn't something that affected me that way, or they weren't a part of every little piece of my life. If you lose your parents, you lose your animal, you lose your whatever. All of that is awful, and it all hurts just the same, and it puts a hole in your heart just the same. But when you lose your person, it affects everything. We ate together, we trained together, we slept together, we vacationed together, we worked together. It was everything. So there's not a single thing that I do that Sofia doesn't come into play. I can't mop the kitchen floor, and there's a thought in my head of that she used to do this. Why the hell, or whatever it is. So it's a very different type of loss. I'm thankful for the people in my life when it happened that said, talk to her, talk to her, talk to her, talk to her. And I did, and I've never quit, and I don't think I ever will. So
with all the signs that she's giving you,
mm-hmm.
Obviously she wasn't ready to leave either.
No, I don't think so. And again, I don't know, I've been on a podcast or two that's kind of been down the faith-based side of it. And I told one lady, I said, you might not like some of what I have to say, but I'm just going to be honest. It's my story and my experience. So, they ask, how do you you believe in God and reasons? And I don't know. I got a lot of anger built up. I don't know. I believe in something. I believe in Sofia. I believe that she's still here and still around me. So I know that there's something going on. I said, that being said, if I was in a car accident and they were rushing me to the hospital, the first thing I'm probably going to do is pray to God that I'm okay. So I said, I understand the dichotomy there, but I believe in her more than I believe in anything, in her energy. And, having talked to psychics and read stuff, and, they talk about how a person's energy in life is a lot of times how it will be, after the fact. And like I said, I like the science. I like factual stuff. I'm a biohack nut. We use infrared, low level laser infrared. I have hydrogen infused water. I mean, she and I lived on, and I won't do it unless there's some science behind it, and there could be opposing views, but as long as I can line up behind some views that actually this is proven, boom, boom, boom. And it's kind of been the same way with signs from her. It's very hard for me to just have that faith, but it's very easy for me to look at things that have happened and go, okay, all of these are energy related. They're light related. They're number related. They're something on my cell phone. They're,
there's physical manifestations.
Absolutely. A week after everything happened, I was sitting at the gym. I had just gotten her necklace made, sitting in the car. I'm holding this necklace. I'm sobbing my eyes out. I get in, I go out to the into the gym and work out. I come back out, I get in my car, my battery's dead, brand new, won't start. Guy pulls over, tries to jump start it, won't jump start. I put the little jumper that I had on it, won't jump start, won't jump. I'm like, this is ridiculous, And before, I would just be able to pick up the phone and call her, hey babe, my car broke down, can you come get me? Let's go get a battery or whatever. And I'm just like, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm sitting in my car and I'm holding this necklace and I'm crying and I'm talking to her and I'm like, babe, I don't even know why my battery died. It's like 2 months old. Why is my battery dead? And now you're not even here to help me through this. God, if you could just please, baby, please help me. Tell me what I need to do. And I turned the car over and it started right up.
Wow.
The battery's been in it for 3 years. Why? How, where can you explain that? You just can't, and I've been around cars enough to know that that's just not how it happens. So
she needed a conversation. She needed a conversation.
And I looked at it and I kind of laugh now and I was like, okay, you haven't figured out your powers yet. You fucked up my battery is what you did. You made it die. And now you had to go back and jump it and get it going to make up for it because you screwed something up. So yeah, I just tell everybody you got to talk to them. Your friend with the dog that you said had passed away. I promise you that dog is still there and running around. If it was a little yippy dog and running around and yipping and nipping and biting and chewing, it's probably still there in some way, shape, or form. I firmly believe all of that. And I've talked to so many different people. Sofia had such an impact on people. I walk into 7-Eleven across the street. There's a guy in there. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. This was about 2 weeks after it happened. Hindu. I end up having an hour-long conversation about Hinduism, which I know nothing about, and the afterlife and what they believe and how and what you have to do and how you have to ground your feet you go to the ocean and you ground it to the ocean, to the heavens, and this whole there's a restaurant we go to. I walk in and they were Muslim. Same thing. Probably an hour-long conversation about this. I have Catholic friends. It's just, and I'm happy to listen to all of this. And the thing that is neat to me is there's, no matter how different the religions are and how they practice religion different, what they think, there's still a base that there's something else there. That part doesn't change from one to the other. So I love hearing all these different, views and way things are. And some I might agree with and some I don't, or some I question. But nonetheless, I don't take away from any of them. And I love being able to hear that different stuff and tie it into, things that have happened with her and I.
Well, and it's so cool that strangers are trying to help you with, your grief and give you these things to grasp onto. I think that's very cool.
She just made an impact, everywhere. The people at 7-Eleven, because they were used to her coming in there. This restaurant we go to, it's an all-you-can-eat Brazilian steakhouse. And I walk in 2 weeks after everything happened, and I sat down, and I hadn't started the foundation or anything. So I'm just sitting there, and I think I might have had one of her T-shirts or something with me. And I'm ordering food, and finally one of the waiters comes over and he says, "Sir," and he's, heavy Spanish accent. He says, "Where is the beautiful woman that's usually with you?" He said, "We were in the back and we feel like something terrible has happened." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "She passed away about 2 weeks ago." Oh my goodness. The whole restaurant, they all come over that work there. They all sit down, they say a prayer. It's, how did this girl make such an impact at a damn restaurant that we would go to, once a month, at 7-Eleven, at every bodybuilding show? The amount of messages that I got from people that I've never met. "Hey, I know you never met me. I met Sofia when you guys were working such and such a show, and she was backstage and she was the nicest person and helped me do this and helped me do just." I've never met anybody that's had such an impact on, on so many people. Certainly not me. So that's kind of how the foundation came around. I was having lunch with one of my best friends, and I said, "I want to do something for her, but I don't know what." And he said, "Well, what do you, genuinely want to do?" And I said, I want to do for other people what she did for me. I talk a lot about failing forward.
I was going to ask you what that is.
Yeah, failing forward and growth when you didn't think it was possible. Those are kind of my two, things. So failing forward came about last year after my bodybuilding show. I was at Masters Nationals in Pittsburgh. Best that I had ever looked. Went up there and I took second and drove home, and I put a couple pictures up and I said failed. People flipped. "Oh my goodness, you didn't fail. Look how good you looked." Blah, 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 blah. I mean, mad at me for saying this. And I wrote back and I said, "I didn't fail. I'm not a failure, but I did fail. The question is, what do you do with that?" And I said, "I'm going to fail forward." And that's when I started putting that together. "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, I failed. The Buffalo Bills lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. They're the second best in the world. But guess what? That's not what they set out to do. They failed. The question is, do you fail forward? Do you look at this and go, hey, we lost the Super Bowl. What do we need to do? We need to bring in a different quarterback. We need to get a better, offensive line. We need to run this and that. So same thing with me. What do I do? How do I get better? How do I fail forward? How do I move forward? And that happens with everything. If you're in business and you lose a big sale, that's a failure, and your boss is probably going to let you know that it's a failure. What do you do with it? Do you take a little bit of time and lick your wounds? Yeah, but then you got to go right back out there and you got to start prospecting again, and you got to get in front of people and you figure out, why did it not close? Was it price? Was it objection? Was it me? How did I handle it? Sports, all the time. Relationships. God knows I've had enough relationships that I've failed in that I looked to finally ended up with Sofia. And had that relationship with her been 20 years ago, I probably would have screwed that one up too. But I failed forward enough times that I knew what not to do. I knew the things that were important and the things weren't, you know. So I talk about that with my kids. The class that I teach is nutrition and wellness. And I'm lucky enough that the first quarter is really focused on mental health and mental wellness. And I'm allowed to really kind of teach it the way I want to teach. So I bring in a lot of my John Maxwell and leadership stuff. We talk about failing forward. We talk about finding your why, you know, and it's different for kids than it is adults. It changes throughout
Sure.
your life. What's your why? Why do you get up every morning? You know, Sofia is my why. Still, 3 years later, she's my why. And if you had asked me that 3.5 years ago, I'm not sure that would have been my answer. I don't know, but there's no question about it now.
Right.
You know, as I said, there's a lot of days I don't want to get out of bed, but my why says you better get your butt up and go do what you got to do. And then the other part to it is growth, you know, trying to teach growth when you didn't think it was possible. And that was me living in my car and I thought I was done mentally, physically, business wise, done, you know? And somewhere through that, I was able to find growth through her from the gym membership I was given. And that growth was at a time when I didn't think it was possible. And it started out physical. It started out because I lost 20 pounds and I was like, oh, okay, I don't look so bad, you know, and that gives you a little bit of confidence and it builds on itself. And it turned into the job at school, you know, and it's kind of blown up and gone from there. But again, that growth when you didn't think it's possible goes through every aspect of life. It could be in a relationship. People get in relationships. You've been, you know, married for 20 years and the relationship's stagnant and there is no growth. Well, there is. You just have to find it. You know, it's growth when you didn't think it was possible. Um, you know, I've talked to, you know, people that have gotten out of prison. A friend of mine, acquaintance of mine, kind of the same thing. He had just gotten out of prison. What do I do, dude? Figure it out. You got to grow. Like it's time. You got to put you forget what everybody says about you or what you did or what happened. That's done and paid for in the eyes of the law. Time for you to move forward. You know, figure out your why. Why do you want to do this? And your why might be to prove everybody wrong. I don't care. You just have to figure out what that why is, you know, and get up and go. So I love that growth when you didn't think it was possible because that's really, you know, what I deal with on a daily basis. And I deal with it as a teacher and trying to get better every day. I deal with it as a friend, with my brothers and sisters. I deal with it bodybuilding, certainly. You know, I'm
Sure.
55 and I'm going, how do I get better? At some point, I'm not going to. You know, right now I'm looking at myself 9 weeks out and I still think I'm going to come in the best I've ever looked at 55. But reality at some point is I'm not, you know, there's going to be one of these years where I'm going to go, I still look good, but not as good as I used to.
And
So it's just,
growing a foundation is very hard.
and that's
Very hard.
probably the biggest thing. And that's where I really want to focus now is, you know, turning this into $1 million organization. I want this organization to help so many people. So I do it through donations and through I have 4 different events I'm planning next year. So we have a walkathon through school during Mental Health Awareness Month, lifts for Sofia, which will be next February, with gyms across the country doing some version of 222. We haven't really figured it out yet. 222 reps, 222 something,
Yeah, that's pretty
and raise
sadistic.
money. Yeah, and then uh, there's a bodybuilding show here in July, which was the show that she and I would have been working. And the 2 women that run that show have made it in her honor. So I raise money for the foundation through that show. So it's her show. And it's a show that we would have been at. And again, like you said, it's the people that I want to be with. It's still very, very difficult for me walking into work these bodybuilding shows. There's no place else I would rather be and nobody I'd rather be with, but it's very bittersweet.
As somebody who started a nonprofit, it's hard work, but you're
Yeah,
not doing it for yourself. You're doing it to carry on the legacy of the person who inspired it. And that'll
right.
keep you motivated every single day, brother.
Yep. There was somebody had said in the beginning, well, you know, how come you're doing this, you know, with her name attached to it? You know, what about all the people that don't know who she is and never met her? That's fine for like your friends and stuff like that. And I said, everybody knows who Adam Walsh is.
Yeah.
That was what, 1987, when John Walsh's son was murdered. And I said, you're 40 some years later and everybody knows who Adam Walsh is. And I
I,
said, that kid was murdered at 11 or 12 years old. I said, everybody's going to know who Sophia Graham is and
I never knew.
what she does. So
I never met Susan G. Komen. Know
yeah,
exactly what that is.
exactly.
How can my listeners get involved?
Um, I would say the first and foremost is go to the website and check it out. It's at 222muscle.com or sophiagrahamfoundation.org. You can certainly buy some swag with the logo on it. You can make a donation. We also have an Instagram page, a Facebook page, a LinkedIn page, pretty much everything. We're out, everywhere. Either my personal one or through the foundation is a great way to follow stuff.
How many gym memberships has 222 Muscle given out?
Triple digits at this point. I don't know how many. I'd have to go back, but we're over 100 that we've done, across the country.
I am watching the videos that I watched and I'm reading about your story and Sophia's story. I feel like I know her.
That's awesome.
I feel like I know her.
That's what I want. Yeah, that's what I want. Like I said, I talk about her continuously, and it's funny to see how, as I said earlier, how people react when you bring her name up, because some people are okay with it, but everybody's kind of not, So when I bring her up, I can say that we're coming up on 3 years, and I don't think I've ever mentioned Sofia in the past tense when I'm telling stories. I'm like, oh, that's our favorite restaurant. Oh, we love that workout, because it's still we. And I love that. I want people to know her. Like I said, my kids certainly don't know her, my students, but they all follow her on Instagram. They all follow the foundation pages, and they all know her, and they will bring stuff up. I'm trying to think. One of the kids one day, they were talking about arm wrestling or something, two of the guys in there. And I heard one of them go, whatever, you think you're strong. Sophia would kick your ass in arm wrestling. And I turned around and I said, my Sophia? And he's like, yeah, we've seen her pictures. And the kids were talking about it. And I said, that's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
That they know her in that sense and are getting something out of it. So I love it.
Absolutely. And the answer to the question, is it better to have loved and lost than to never have found that love? It's definitely better to have found it and lost it, because I sense that while you're still grieving, your grief is subsiding every single day, but that love is getting stronger every day.
Yeah. And I was going to say, to say that's a love and lost, I don't know that it was lost.
Exactly.
I love her more. Like you said, I love her more every single day. And the things that I loved about her become more apparent, every single day. So
great perspective, brother.
This was fun.
I'm glad. And again, I think this is going to inspire a lot of people. If you're watching on YouTube, I've got 222muscle.com up on the bottom of the screen. And that's how you can help get involved with Kelly's foundation to honor Sophia.
Awesome.
It is awesome. You're awesome, Kelly. And so is Sophia. Again, if you'd like to honor Sophia and help people navigate their mental health situations, you can go to 222muscle.com. My thanks to Kelly for joining me, and my thanks to you for listening. Sure would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the YouTube channel and tell people about the podcast. Also, if you have any suggestions to make the show better or topics you'd like me to explore, you can email me at thefuzzymike, M-I-C, @gmail.com. For laughter and fly-on-the-wall banter, check out the Tuttle and Klein podcast. My radio partner of 25 years, Tim Tuttle, and I, we go unscripted and unfiltered in what's been called, quote, the best damn podcast on the internet. Who cares if we were the ones who said it? New episodes every Wednesday. The Fuzzy Mike is hosted and produced by Kevin Klein. Production elements by Zach Sheesh at the Radio Farm. Social media director is Trish Klein. Join me next Tuesday for a new episode. We're going to meet a childhood soccer hero of mine whose health issues are so numerous, we don't have enough fingers and toes to count them all. He's truly a living miracle. See you next week, and thank you.
That's it for the Fuzzy Mike. Thank you. The Fuzzy Mike with Kevin Klein.
Fuzzy Mike.